This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited Podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited Podcast. On this episode, we have not one, but two incredible guests. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome the creators of BallBlast Football, Kate and Michelle Magdziuk. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. We're so excited to be here.
It's a long time coming. We're so excited to be able to lock down a time and just get to spend some time with you. It just so happens to be that we're just having this conversation in front of an audience, would you say? But yeah, I'm just excited to get down to talk to you because we go way back, Kevin.
We do go back a ways. But for listeners and viewers that are unfamiliar with your journey and your contributions in the space, what are your current roles in sports media?
Yeah, so I'm right now working with NFL Network. I'm a researcher, so I'm behind the scenes on all the, the network shows there. And then also I co-host a couple podcasts. So I do the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast every day. We post an episode every day. And then also on Fridays, I do a 49ers podcast with the Gold Standard Network.
And Kate?
Little bit of a betrayal there because we are Steelers fans in this household. So of course, her hosting a 49ers podcast wasn't in my bingo cards for like the last couple of years. Me, Kate, I am doing, some fantasy football writing, contributing with Pro Football Focus, Yahoo, and just kind of doing like some freelance gigs right now, which has been a really fun time. I co-host the Locked On Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast with my co-host Marcus Mosher. Just kind of bebopping around the industry, but it's been such a fun time.
I love it. No, obviously your journeys have been so much fun to witness. I can proudly say that I remember the whole thing. I remember when you first kind of burst onto the fantasy Twitter scene. I even looked back at, I pulled back some history, and I found that the first time I found Michelle, basically Kate on March 28th, 2019, tweeted, "All right, everybody, can we get BallBlastEm to 200 followers?" She's on the move.
Wow.
and I responded, she's now one closer. So that's where we go back with Michelle. And then just a few weeks earlier, Kate, Jake Seeley made a post about churro cinnamon toast crunch and how you got to put the milk first. And I responded to Jake's, and then you responded to my tweet saying, "Milk first? What?" So that predates Cooter
totally
Doodle. So I love it. I love it. So much fun. So again, it's been so cool to see everything you guys have done over the years, and it's just so fun to have you here. Obviously, you guys have both carved a really cool path towards working in the fantasy space. Lots to dive into. So let's reel way back to when you guys first started to love sports. Like, what's your stories when it comes to your passion for sports?
So mine started at a really young age because my parents are huge, diehard Steelers fans. So, every Sunday was spent watching football, and I was dressed up in Steelers gear as soon as I was, born. It happened immediately. I tried to be a Rams fan for a hot second when I was like 6 or 7, just to like be different from my parents, but that didn't last very long. They weren't really having that. But then also grew up a huge Syracuse basketball fan as well. So we were a big, my parents were into baseball, the Red Sox. I never really got into that all too much, but it's just a really big sports family. So I've been into sports my whole life.
I've never been like a big sports fan though. So I grew up in a family of Steelers fans, but they were very much the casual, we'll watch it when it's on. We're not going to, sign up for 50 subscription services to watch the Steelers game. Like, it was very casual. We would watch the Super Bowl, but like not much else. I couldn't even participate in sports growing up because I've had like severe asthma my whole life. So I had an asthma attack as a goalie. I had an asthma attack as a goalie. And my mother swore that would be the last time I ever stepped foot on a field again after that experience. Like, I never played sports. I really didn't watch them that much. And then I met Michelle, and it all went downhill because I started watching games with her. I got into fantasy football. I played in the league with her, and I got so obsessed, and I unlocked this competitive beast within myself that has never been able to be pushed back under the rug.
And you can play sports now because I got you over your asthma.
Yeah, I still have asthma, but it's actually like monumentally better in the last few years. I've been, doing Orange Theory and all that stuff. So now we're, I know it's not like the most athletic sport in the world, but really into pickleball right now. So if fantasy pickleball ever comes up and starts to be a thing, maybe I can be like a late round sleeper. I don't know.
I love it. Well, there's definitely a movement with football or with pickleball in fantasy. So I like that. I like where you're going. And that's cool. Side note, it's awesome to see, you on your health journey and running and doing that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. So happy for you on that front for sure. So growing up, like when it comes to specific players, Michelle, like who were your favorite players growing up?
So it was really just all like the Steelers guys. I didn't care about the other players across the league, but I will say my weirdest obsession was Mike Wallace. I was obsessed with that man. Now that was like during my teen years. And I just thought he was so cute. I loved him. Mike Wallace was my dude.
So if Mike Wallace, if you're listening right now.
There it is. How about your favorite memories when it comes to sports? Favorite all-time moments as a sports fan, and maybe like, what's the worst moment you've had as a sports fan?
Yeah, I'll say probably our duo favorite moment. Like we got to go to the Cavs playoff games with LeBron, and like stay in a suite, and we've got to go to a few of his playoff games. We saw his very first game without wearing the headband with the Cavs, so that was a blast. Those were some of the best sports memories of my life. And then also we saw the Steelers beat Tom Brady
That's what I wrote down.
What was it? Sunday night game?
It was the 2018 season. Week 11 of I wrote it down. Week 15 of the 2018 season. It was a primetime game. Joe Hayden picked off Tom Brady in the red zone. And like, let me tell you, it wasn't like a game-changing game. Like we won, but like it wasn't anything monumental, I don't think, in that game. But like the hatred that fan base feels for Tom Brady and the just level of disgust they hate for his tendency to win Super Bowls, like to see him picked off. But it was just,
we also decided to go to that game at the really last minute. Like we lived like 10 minutes away from the stadium, like walking. And we were like, oh, the Patriots are going to kill the Steelers. Like, do we really want to go to this game? And we decided at the last moment, and then like getting to see that pick, and it was right at our sideline. It was like really sick. That was the coolest.
I'm going to say my runner up, week 11 of the 2017 season. Of course, all my memories are like recent because I just more recently got into football. But Michelle surprised me with tickets to the Steelers game for my birthday. It was a Thursday night game against the Titans. It was just like the most bananas game. Antonio Brown absolutely went off, 144 yards and 3 touchdowns, and we got to see it all unfold. Steelers kicked booty, and I took off work the next day. Like it was a time, and it was like the best. It was not only like awesome to be, surprised with tickets, like that whole thing was like very thoughtful. She got me like a little jersey and all this stuff. That was awesome. But like the fact that you actually go to the game and you whoop booty and you see one of your favorite players ball out, like it was just one of the best memories.
I was gonna say, I love that those are just individual games, right? Not huge, meaningful games, but it kind of captures why sports are so great. Like a game like that, I can see everything you described, like just the fan base, like just really enjoying the atmosphere. And that's really special. I like that.
Yeah, going on the opposite end of the worst games, like obviously, like I was there watching I wasn't at the game, but watching the Steelers lose the Super Bowl to the Packers was one of the worst games. Obviously, that's going to stick there. But one just like single game, I'll say it was against the Saints in 2018. It was week 17. They had the win, but then the refs decided to call pushing on Joe Hayden, and then the Saints win the game, and they needed that win to make the playoffs, and they were such a good team in 2018, right? They were such a good offense.
I thought you were going to talk about the Juju fumble against the Saints.
Well, that too.
On your mom's birthday.
Okay. But the Joe Hayden thing, the refs ruined that game. But then, yeah, Juju fumble also ruined the game. But that changed the course of the Steelers, right? They haven't been fun since that game. That was the last game they've been fun because once Juju fumbled in that game, that's when Antonio Brown went off. That was actually Antonio Brown's very last game with the Steelers. And then, Ben gets hurt in 2019, wasn't never the same. And it's just been gross since then.
The Jaguars loss in the divisional round in 2017 was
a
so
bad one.
brutal. Ben Roethlisberger, I looked it up. He had such a good game. 469 yards, 5 touchdowns, and an interception. And we still lost against Blake Bortles, Keelan Cole, Marquise Lee. It's like Leonard Fournette ruined the lives of a lot of Steelers fans. And like, I think the loss against like the Jaguars in particular, who you knew the Steelers were the better team overall, and they had a productive game on offense, like that sucked. That was the first moment that I realized, like, God, I hate you for making me love sports, because it was so heartbreaking. And I realized how far deep I had sunk into the whole bit at that moment.
Yeah. Oh, I can sympathize with losses like that. I can't sympathize when a Steelers fan brings up refs, because they cost me and my Seahawks the Super Bowl. The refs and the Steelers, they beat us. It wasn't a fair situation in that Super Bowl. So the refs and the Steelers. But that was a rough one for me. So obviously, you guys kind of came together, enjoyed this football experience. When did you discover fantasy sports together? I know that you said, Kate, that she invited you in league. Michelle, have you been playing for a long time before that?
Yeah, again, like my family was so crazy. So by the time I was like 8, my dad started. I have 3 siblings, so there was 4 of us, and then my mom and the dad in the house. So then we would wake up on Sunday mornings and we would draft a fantasy team every Sunday. So we wouldn't have like a league, but like it was basically
your
DFS.
dad invented Underdog.
Yeah. Basically, my dad invented DFS. But yeah, we would play on Sundays. We'd draft our team, just the 6 of us. So like all of our teams were stacked. And then my dad would do the scoring by hand at this point, and we'd be waiting until the next day to figure out who won. But that just like got me hooked. I've been playing throughout my entire life, basically.
That's awesome. And then then Kate, you joined in. What was that first experience like playing fantasy? What hooked you?
It was terrifying. So Michelle invited me into a league with her brother, which her brother, very serious gentleman, very serious. And he was particularly serious. He's like lost a bit of his interest in football at this point. But back then, it was like no joke, no messing around. This was a very exclusive league. It was called the Sunshine League. And I had never played fantasy before. I'd only watched, the season with Michelle, my first season really consuming as a fan. And Michelle's like, oh, Kate plays fantasy football all the time. There was an opening in the league. She volunteered me for it. And he was like, well, she needs to be serious. Like, no messing around. She needs to, she needs to know her stuff. And Michelle's like, yeah. She's like obsessed with fantasy football. I never played fantasy football. So I spent the whole summer just researching and learning everything that I could about fantasy football. And I went to the championship game that year.
Because beginners always do. So annoying. It's so annoying.
Because we overthink.
Yeah. Once you're in it too long, you start to overthink.
The more data points you have, the more sometimes the most basic and stupid decisions become difficult. And
exactly.
So
overthinking, definitely.
I started, really diving in, and then I expanded to more leagues and then Dynasty. And here I am today, a shell of a human with
it's all Michelle's fault too. I love it.
Yeah.
So do you remember early content, like who you were listening to? Like who were the early content creators that you guys were tuning into?
Yeah, fantasy footballers for sure. They got us wanting to podcast because they were just so fun. It was such a different way of podcasting. It's something that no one else really did before. Like just how funny they were by also being really intelligent and teaching you at the same time. And then I used to always listen to the Yahoo fantasy podcast on my walk home from work. I remember with Liz Loza and Matt Harmon. Those were my 2 go-tos that I listened to every day.
I also love the Fantasy Pros podcast. Shout out, rest in peace, Mike Tagliere. One of the absolute legends, but another podcast that I remember would just put on. I biked to work at that time. So on my way to work, it would be the Fantasy Footballers, Yahoo. And then on the way home, I'd slide in one of these other ones. But those were kind of like the holy trinity for me.
And that's a great balance too of content resources for sure. So do you guys have a primary league that you play in now? Like one league that is your main league?
The one league I care about most, well, there's two, but the one, it's my dad's league. And it's such a stupid league. It's so good. It's so good. It's like, it's my dad's league with most of it being his friends. I share a team with my mom, but my mom doesn't care about any of it. Like I pretty much just took over a team. She
just wants all the Steelers.
She just actually joined into this league a couple of years ago. This league has been going on since the year I was born. So it's been going on since 1991 is when my dad started it. Nice. So we're now in this league, and it's the most like stupid standard league ever. So there's 0 PPR, but that's not even the point. It's only 1 point per 20 receiving and rushing yards instead of 1 point per 10. So it's like very, very few points in this league. So it comes down to touchdowns so much.
But it's literally only touch. I mean, you could have one guy who has 2 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he's going to win you the week. And you know, you might have another like wide receiver who's got like 200 receiving yards, didn't happen to get the touchdown because he was tackled at the goal line.
He still put up a lot of points
not in comparison to a guy that falls in the end zone twice. It's maddening. I suck in this league. I'm so bad in this league.
I'm pretty good, but it is maddening, I will say. And then the normal league we're in, we have a league with all of our friends like across the US. Like everyone lives in different states. So it's called the Distant Friends League. And that's the other really great one we do. And that's a normal one. It's half PPR, like normal scoring, where we can have some sanity.
I love it. I love it. Do you guys have any like special traditions in leagues that you played in the past, like live drafts or punishments, anything like that?
We really don't do punishments.
No.
I wish we did to keep people a little bit more engaged, but like I try to play in leagues where people are just engaged, right? And then if they're not engaged, I get out of them after the year because I'm like, you guys weren't fun, you know. I try to only play in leagues where people are engaged, so we don't need that punishment. But maybe we should.
I just want like, can somebody like punish me? Your dad?
See, you would purposely lose though to do the Waffle House.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Somebody make me do the Waffle House challenge so I have an excuse to go and eat. Or like a Chili's challenge where I have to eat like a certain amount of things off the Chili's menu, or like a kolache challenge. Like I don't know. I think it sounds really fun. And
start losing though.
I know, but everybody makes them out to be so hard. And I just don't think they could possibly.
I wouldn't want to sit at a Waffle House for like 18 hours. That sounds pretty bad.
I don't know. It would be a great time to catch up on your writing.
Waffle House is dirty.
Not always.
If it was like clean. Maybe, but it's like sticky everywhere.
It is really sticky. Yeah. Every Waffle House I've ever been to is just.
Yeah, I don't want to like read books and like do my work while it's sticky everywhere.
Yeah, that stickiness would get to you at least by the 8th hour probably. Yeah. Do you have favorite league settings or formats to play in?
I personally just like the full PPR. I know that it's really stupid at times, and a guy can get like 26 yards and 10 receptions, and it's like, okay, but I do think it all equals out over time. I like PPR.
Yeah, I like PPR.
I like tight end premium as well. And then also it's really getting to me lately is the super flex, needing those 2 quarterbacks, because in 1 quarterback leagues, there's just too many good quarterbacks out there. It's so easy to stream nowadays that I like the 2 quarterbacks. It makes it a little bit more challenging.
How many leagues do you guys playing in?
We play in about 4 redraft leagues each year, and then I have 5 dynasty leagues.
I just did my count yesterday. It's 12.
Okay,
including Scott Fishbowl, which you have to.
Okay, yeah.
My redraft one was counting Scott Fishbowl.
Okay.
Yeah, there's always gonna be some group of industry leagues that aren't as time consuming as some other leagues that you care so much about. But it is fun to have a variety. I know that we did the waiver wire roulette league for several years together, and that was fun. It's fun to have some weird, quirky leagues mixed in there for sure, right?
That was fun. We need to do that again. I just remember that one year we didn't know about the draft, and then we were like, oh shoot. and then I don't know what happened to it after that.
That was actually probably one of my favorite kind of like settings in terms of leagues, like weirdest league I've ever been in, but honestly one of the most challenging, because like it doesn't matter if you have a stacked draft, like you're gonna have tough decisions to make all year long.
Because that like you're only able to roster the players you're starting, so like it was like an 8-man, like you can only have the 8 men on your roster.
Yeah, so if you had like a
bye, you had to drop them. That was hard.
shout out to Commissioner Beck on that one. That was fun. Well, I'll see if he can rally the troops. So some good people in that group. Also stemming back to SportsCon, which we'll get to in a second. Obviously, it was 2019-ish. You guys showed up on in the Twitterverse. What was it that inspired you to get online and start talking football?
I don't know what inspired the online thing. What inspired podcasting was we were talking so much about fantasy football this time in our life because we both just enjoyed it so much. And I remember we were at a bar, we were drinking some beer, and we were like, what if we started a podcast and we tried to be like the fantasy footballers? And we did order it and it came and we were like, oh shoot, now what do we do with this? And then like you already had your Twitter. What made you start your Twitter?
I honestly don't really remember what spurred the Twitter conversations. I think what like first initially, like I had, followed just the industry people, like the standard, Matthew Berry, and made all those followers. And then I think I started like sifting through the comments and I was like, oh, there's like some really lively discussions. And like there's really kind of a subpopulation of Earth that is dedicating a lot of their time to talking about fantasy football online. And honestly, that's something that like we didn't really have other people outside of the two of us. It's not like we were in these big leagues with a bunch of friends. Like we didn't have a ton of people outside of each other to talk fantasy football with. So I feel like it was just kind of this natural, once you discover the community, of that kind of companionship that you're looking for with, to enjoy this thing that you love with other people. Like it just felt like a natural thing. So I got in, I started diving into the conversations, debating. That's always a fun thing. So yeah.
We started answering start sit questions. And even on like Sunday, I'd go on to your Twitter and like answer start sit questions too. And then I was like, maybe I should just create my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was the podcast created?
What was it? March 2019?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, so it was right at the same time. We go back to this, these first chatters trying to get her up, your followers up. It was right then. Yeah. So that was that spring of 2019. That was, it was wild. I mean, you guys burst onto the scene, and there was just so much chatter, so much conversations. You guys brought so much fun energy to the Twitterverse, and I enjoyed all of that for sure. That obviously led to you guys going to SportsCon. So what was it that you wanted to get out of that SportsCon experience? This was summer of 2019.
Yeah, I don't think we really fully knew what to expect when going there, right? We didn't know like what the booths were going to be like or how many people were going to be able to meet in the industry. It turned out to be such like what was that one thing we did there? Was that the time when we all went to
draft night out?
Yeah, draft night out. That was an absolute blast with everybody. We got
they're still doing.
Meet so many new friends. Well, like we got to meet people from the Twitter sphere, right? That we're only connecting with on the internet, but actually meet them in face to face and make those connections. And I'm so happy we did that. But and then what was it? A couple months later, we had the fantasy football convention in Canton, which was also just like another trip with all of us to even get closer. It was a great time.
Yeah.
So you went to that first expo too, which was just a small amount of people in Canton. It's amazing what it's turned into. But yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, it was. I honestly think from all kinds of perspectives, like for whether it be the fantasy football expo or SportsCon or whatever, I think like the biggest thing was just trying to like connect a bit more with the community, because like it is such a close and tight knit group of people. Even if there are people you're not friends with or like you're not a part of a certain subgroup, like we all know each other. Like I know who fantasy analyst XYZ likes and doesn't like. And, like, I feel like we all just exist so closely in this ecosystem that it's just an opportunity to connect. And
was SportsCon the place that you had to throw up in the garbage?
Probably.
Because they were hungover from whatever events we were doing the night before.
We went out with you, Kevin.
Oh yeah.
Nate Hamilton. And I will tell you, I woke up in the morning. I was not doing well. Michelle tried. This is the second time, or I think the second time in my life, Michelle tried to force feed me a Bloody Mary when I was hungover. And I do not no, I do not like Bloody Marys. They're supposed to fix you. They're supposed to fix you. I have the adverse reactions to Bloody Marys, and literally both times you've made me drink a Bloody Mary, I have thrown up after the first sip. Like, done. And that was not, I wasn't feeling my best that morning, but we rallied.
Good times. Good
Yeah.
times. Yeah, that was the after hours from draft night out at
Whew.
Top Golf, right? We found some
Yeah.
little establishment, and yeah, good times. So many fun memories. Obviously, you guys have, you launched Ball Blast and everything. So talk about the lessons that you learned, because you've seen it all. You've started kind of just getting involved in the community, talking. Obviously, you started the podcast. You had different opportunities come from the podcast, and you kind of developed a team. You merged with the Red Shirts. You've obviously then have launched into, contributing multiple places over the last few years. Talk about the biggest lessons that you've learned kind of from the beginning until now.
Mine had to be not feed the trolls, right? I mean, there's a lot of lessons, right, about consistency and the hustle you have to put in. Like, it's a lot of work in the beginning to get out there, to get your name out there. I mean, because you're working, most people who are trying to break into this industry, you're working a different job, right, in a completely different industry, full time, and you have to come home and then put all your effort into doing this. And typically you're working for free to start when you're working in the fantasy football or NFL industry. So that was a lot to do at that time. So just the hustle, but then also I let, the trolls on Twitter just like take over my brain at times. And I, over the last couple of years, I've really learned to shut that noise out, which has been huge for me.
Yeah, I think a big part of that, like, also just stems to learning how to protect your own mental health, whether that be, knowing when you need a break and listening to yourself. Like, there have been plenty of times where, honestly, like, social media has been a challenge to overcome in terms of the trolls. And just like, there are times when you are more vulnerable than others. Like, I remember back, my mom was very sick right before her passing. And there was this time on Twitter where I was just it was like, I made some Derrick Henry prediction or something about the Titans. I can't remember what it was. It had something to do with the Titans or Derrick Henry. I was bullied so relentlessly. And I didn't know how to deal with it at that moment, because I was dealing with such like big real life things that came, the fantasy sports was kind of like my way of, finding a mental health break. And then it kind of turned into this really toxic space. And I kind of wish I had somebody in my life who was telling me, like, it's okay to take a break. Like, fantasy sports will still be there. Like, even if you're trying to make this a career, if you need time away for your own mentals, like, take it. I think another lesson is just like community in general and how important the connections are, because you never know, like, this is an industry of friends and an industry of like relationships, really. And those relationships are so important. And those connections, whether it's to, find a guest on a podcast or whatever, like, those relationships, I think, can be so key to success.
For sure. No, and it makes sense. You guys bring up obviously some of the challenges. I imagine, the trolls and dealing with kind of stuff has probably been some of your biggest challenges. But your successes are, it's, to step back and to watch what you guys have done. It's so cool to see from my perspective, again, seeing from the beginning. And to think, like, you guys had careers in healthcare, decided to move on from that. Like, what did it take for you guys to decide to like completely change the path of your life to dive down this road in the fantasy industry?
It can be scary because it's such a safe industry, the healthcare industry, right? You're like, I was leaving a pretty solid job with really good benefits. And I had a good boss and I worked from home too. So it was a nice steady job, and I'm leaving it to go work for NFL Network. I don't know how steady that's going to be. It was during the pandemic as well. And I didn't know if they'd need me to move to LA or whatnot. So it was a big leap of kind of just went for it in that moment. But it was really easy leaving my job. Like, I was a recruiter for nurses. I wasn't going to miss it at all. I think it was a little bit harder for you to leave your job because you loved your patients. Like, she actually had an impact in the healthcare industry. I had no impact, but like your impact meant a lot more. So I think you leaving felt harder for you.
I mean, yeah. And I had gone through, years and years of training to be a nurse and end up where I was. And I had worked my way up into a position that like had a lot of autonomy as far as nursing goes. And I had a caseload of patients that I was very close to. And, I had a lot of families that I had extremely close relationships with. Like I was in such a very interesting position in my nursing career. But honestly, like going back to when my mom was sick, for example, I struggled with that tremendously. My mom ended up passing. And I literally just got to this point where I was like, life's too short. I need to step away and do something that's for me. And like, it's okay to be selfish for a moment and do something that's, you know, challenging, but really fun and enjoyable. Not that I didn't enjoy nursing, but like it takes a lot out of you. So like
Yeah.
I wanted something, in my healing journey that was going to kind of spark life back into me at a point where I really needed it. So I just I went to like a tarot card reader because I was like, I don't know what to do. I've never done anything like that in my life. I literally went to a tarot card reader. I was like, what should I do? Is my life going to change forever? Obviously it did because of it, but like,
Is it only because the tarot card reader told you so?
no. I just needed like some sort of sign that I wasn't a total crazy person. Cause like, yeah, leaving a career where, yeah, everybody needs a nurse at all times. Like leaving that kind of stability for the instability of the sports industry is really scary. But like, I don't know. It was like the best selfish decision I've ever made.
I think it's fantastic. I mean, it's such a cool, inspirational story. Chasing your dreams and chasing your happiness, and doing it along. Michelle. I mean, it's just. I think it's fantastic. What's been the most rewarding part of this experience in the fantasy industry?
I mean, honestly, all the connections we made across the world, right? Like so many people we would have never ever spoken to or talked to are now our good friends, just like all over the place. That's awesome. Obviously, my job right now is like my favorite thing ever. I look forward to it every day. So that's obviously rewarding. But yeah, those two things I'd say.
Yeah, I definitely think the relationships and also just like getting to learn all the time. I mean, there's always something new to be learned. And I think especially in like the Twitter community on fantasy football, like there's always so much information being shared that you could scroll through your Twitter timeline as long as you've carefully decided who you follow and stuff. Like you
Yeah.
could scroll through your Twitter
Don't
timeline.
use the For You page because that's where
always stick to my like following page, but like you could scroll through Twitter and I could learn many new things in one sitting. Like there are people reviewing film, there are people that are really funny. Like you can get a little bit of everything. And I think like having that sort of I don't know. I love getting all of that new information, all of those new types of information from all different types of people who present it in different ways.
Yeah, there's so many incredible people in the community, obviously creating content, but just good people. And you've experienced that. We talked a little bit about going to some of these events. Talk about that first expo, maybe the second expo that you went to, where it was obviously much bigger, amount of people that went, kind of meeting people for the first time in person, and then maybe a little bit about like the women of fantasy football movement and kind of what those things experiences have been like for you.
They've been pretty awesome. I mean, I can say, especially having seen the first expo, we haven't gone the last couple of years. I think we're hoping to go here in 2024. So TBD on that. But like seeing the evolution of that and seeing the number of people that aren't just coming, like as analysts, but seeing the fan engagement increase over the couple of years that we went, like, I think that's been one of the most special things. And I think fantasy Twitter has kind of brought that out to like this unique community of content consumers. Shout out to Tootsie Pop Rachel, who I think kind of tagged that phrase.
Yeah.
Like she said, I'm not a fantasy analyst. I'm a content consumer. And I thought that was just so savvy. But like these are people that are keeping our work afloat, and they're the reason that we're creating work and helping people bridge the love that they have for fantasy football and making them better players and figuring out how to relate to them. So I think the expo's been kind of huge in that regard specifically.
Yeah, I'm excited. I heard it's grown even so much more since we've last gone. So I'm really excited to see everything it's grown into this year.
Yeah, it's a special one. How about the live SFB in Houston? Are you going to be attending that?
Yes, we will. Yeah, let's go. Drafting Live A is just the best. And then drafting Scott Fishbowl Live. We've never done that before. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, so many great people go to those events. I definitely think that you'll have a great time with that. Obviously, one thing that connects all of us is that love for football. We just got through the draft. We got the season, kind of ahead of us. It's not too far off. Any players, any specifically prospects that you're excited for once we've seen those landing spots, and then any players, just in redraft that you have to jump ADP for because those are your guys at this time.
So I'm a Texas Longhorns fan. So is she. But I feel like I'm a little bit higher. We both became friends at the same exact time. But I randomly cried when they lost this last year. And it surprised me. I didn't know I was at that fandom of caring, but apparently I'm there. But anyways, I was really excited to see where Xavier Worthy landed with the Chiefs. Obviously, just amazing landing spot. I thought while watching them all year long, Worthy was by far the more impressive wide receiver than A.D. Mitchell. I didn't even know A.D. Mitchell was going to be drafted, let alone top 2 run when watching him.
You knew he'd be drafted.
I did not. And when watching him, until I went and looked at the rankings, I was like, wait, what is happening with A.D. Mitchell? He's
an athletic freak.
He's not good at all. But Jatavian Sanders, too, the tight end from Texas, he lands later than we expected, right? He was, at times to begin this offseason, he was a late first-round pick, falls all the way to the 4th, but goes with the Panthers, and he has no competition there for snaps. He's such a good receiving tight end. I'm excited to see what he can do there as well.
I'm still all in on Audric Estime, who was one of my favorite pre-draft crushes. He was my pre-draft RB3. And
I would get drafted as RB 2200.
Yeah, something.
I like Audric Estime as well.
But I do think obviously my whole thing is that Audric Estime really hurt his draft stock. He ran a 4.71 40-yard dash, which ouch. But the explosive run metrics, his playing speed, I think is faster than that. And I do think that out of all the landing spots you could have kind of carved out, especially that late in the draft, the Broncos are a really interesting landing spot with Sean Payton. Who knows what Bo Nix is going to offer, but he's an athletic quarterback. I love the pairing of Troy Franklin. Get your quarterback his top collegiate target. I think that's a no-brainer that more teams should lean into. But Audric Estime in particular, playing behind, it's literally just Javonte Williams, and Javonte Williams is coming off of a disastrous season, albeit coming off the torn ACL. But I think the opportunity there is kind of wide open. And I feel like that's one of the best fits that nobody's talked about.
Yeah, that is more of a complex knee injury too. So, it's uncertain with him, with Williams. So we'll see. It is. You're right. It's a good fit, interesting fit. A great buy in Dynasty to kind of see what happens with him. All that stuff's excited. Lots of football talk. But let's dive into a little bit more about you guys. Dive into some rapid fire questions. First, what do you enjoy most about what you're doing in sports media?
So right now during the off season, I get to dig, I have time to dig into all 32 teams, and I write up 6 to 10 pages of research notes on all 32 teams. And I get to learn so much about them, so much of what they're changed, position by position, so much of what they did last year, which we already did a lot of work on that, but so much of projecting what they're going to do next year as well, just digging into all the research. I look forward to that so much. I'm such a nerd when it comes to that stuff. I get so excited to do it.
Yeah, this is a great question. I think what I'm most excited right now is just having the medium to write for 2 very different sites between, Pro Football Focus and Yahoo. The tone's very different between the two. Then, podcasting every day. I think it's a really interesting kind of skill to develop, to be able to go between these different voices and the different ways of presenting your cases. And I think it's kind of made me a more well-rounded analyst, being able to present and sort of different voices in different ways. So I think that's probably been my most enjoyable thing this offseason.
I love it. And side note, Michelle, I know it's kind of full circle when you guys talk about how you love the fantasy footballers. You got to work on that NFL Plus post draft. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I learned like a couple days before I was going to be the researcher that helped them. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. So like just throughout the show, I was kind of like on Slack writing them some information while like they're talking about different things. But just like as the draft picks went on, it was mostly just like the fantasy relevant players that got drafted. But it was fun to just get to work with them. They were hilarious as always. They had their own information. They have their own researcher as well on their end. But anyway, I was able to help. I got excited and I was just there to kind of just be extra support for them.
I think that's cool. That's really cool. How about a person that you'd love to watch a football game with, just to kind of see what they, their perspective on the game of football?
I have my answer. I want to hear yours first.
Mine's Taylor Swift. Now that it has a year under her belt of being a fan.
That's a good
She
one.
seemed to be really getting into it last year, at games. I would love to just see like her thoughts, like what she knows about the game. Like I would love to like see how smart she is. I wouldn't like call her out on it if she was wrong about something, but like I just want to I want to see.
That's a
I
good
have
answer.
a very different answer.
What's yours?
Bill Belichick.
I thought about him for a real reason, or for a real answer. I thought.
Oh
About
yeah,
him.
for like real, like I actually think what we've seen from Bill Belichick so far in media, he seems like a really likable dude, and he seems. I mean, obviously we know he's a freaking genius. There's no question about that. So like, I actually think there's something to the era of commentators that we're seeing right now of being able to deliver this like very intelligent, entertaining commentary. And I think Bill Belichick's like the next guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's good.
I mean,
from that football perspective, I think that's a good answer. Both answers are really good. Next question. Does Ross Tucker still think you are sisters or sister-in-laws?
It is so funny that you're asking because he just texted us like 2 days ago. He's like, "How are my favorite sisters?" He does not actually believe we're sisters, but the joke will never.
Yeah,
the joke won't.
The joke still goes. He still loves it. He still loves that whole thing. But he finally has it in our heads that we are married and not sisters. Yes.
So funny. Good memories for sure. How about this? One game, fully healthy, no limitations. Who do you have in the backfield? Rashad Penny or Zach Moss?
It's got to be Zach Moss. I know I went through my love for Rashad Penny, but Zach Moss is always my number one man. So Zach Moss.
I'm gonna go with Rashad Penny.
You are getting off this whole Zach Moss train.
No, I'm not.
You are not allowed to roster him on any of your teams.
No, I'm not.
I get him.
No, I'm not. I'm not off of Zach Moss, but I'm saying like fully healthy. I think Rashad Penny is the better pure runner.
No, I love the answer because again, I love the history. Us talking about this years ago. Your faith and hope in Penny, like just what was it 2 years ago? I mean, he won me a fantasy championship.
Yes.
Like he showed during that final stretch everything that you guys saw in him, right? Like
only like 4 years late, but
yeah,
that's
what these running backs like to do. 4 years later,
4 years late, but you can say, okay, injury, health, opportunity, like it wasn't there, but when it was, and things were healthy for just a little window, he was incredible and so effortless with his running style. Zach Moss, I think like that guy's working.
Is out the window. I do think you have to.
Yeah, Penny's amazing. That's fair. He's amazing.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
Sure.
Okay, yeah. Well, what do you love more, football or coffee? Because last time we spoke in person, Michelle, I can't look at coffee or think of coffee and not think of the two of you after our conversation because you had so much passion about coffee. So is it football or is it coffee?
I couldn't live without either. So I don't know. This is kind of like Sophie's choice here.
If I had a gun to my head though, you have to pick one and you have to function every single
day. Oh, you can drink energy drinks or find something. I would still pick football, but because it would be hard though. I love coffee. It's when I open up my eyes, I think coffee and I need it in my hands in the next 2 seconds.
Are you still doing like
coffee? You can't have that first cup of coffee.
Can I have espresso martini still?
No.
Oh my God. Then I don't know.
I say yes. Oh, espresso martinis
if
and
different
football.
Than coffee, then yeah, that's easy.
Oh my. That's cheap. If espresso is not considered coffee, then yes, I will agree.
Okay.
I love that so much. Do you still do like that order thing you had where it was like you getting different coffee all the time?
I don't think so.
Honestly,
we make our coffee at home each day. Just drink it black.
Yeah, we've got our daily, almost daily Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee. Iced coffee, just plain black iced coffee.
We get that in the afternoon though, but that's after our morning hot coffee that we make at home.
Yeah, we have a few cups each of our normal brew. And then in the afternoon, either like a cold brew from Black Rock or iced coffee from Dunkin'. Always black though. Don't ruin it with cream. Don't ruin it with sugar. Keep it simple.
That's dedication. I love it. What are your hobbies, activities outside of sports?
So when I saw you were going to ask this question, I was like, oh man, because so many of our hobbies are sports. So like obviously the football, but then we also play an adult kickball league. We play pickleball all the time. We do Orange Theory. So like our hobbies outside of sports is kind of trashy. It's like trash TV, obsessed. Like Vanderpump Rules, love After Lockup. We love to go to brunch and have mimosas. Like the rest of the stuff is like not good for us in life.
Thank God we're so active. Because like when we're not being active, we're kind of human trash.
We're ruining our brain with alcohol and trash TV.
But honestly, like sometimes I need to watch trash TV because like I get with like the level of analysis and the numbers. And, like there are sometimes at night where I don't know if you guys ever have this feeling where you're like asleep, but you're thinking. And like there are times where I just think through numbers and like I can't even get a good night's rest because like my brain does. So the perfect way to shut my brain off is to watch something like Love After Lockup, which is very stupid. But it really, if you're looking to delete all the brain cells from your brain, it's a great show to watch. So
Vanderpump's the best one though.
Vanderpump, yeah. So like I kind of like the trash TV because it really is sometimes the only thing that I can like truly shut off my brain with. I don't know.
Yeah, those are great answers. And it was supposed to be more like outside of fantasy sports. So kickball, I mean, all that stuff. That all is what I was looking for. Nice. But with that trash TV kind of thing, I can totally relate. My wife's the same way where at night, like, you got to put on something like that just to zone out. So totally understand what you're saying, Kate. That fits what I'm thinking as well. So when it comes to places you've lived, you guys have lived a few different places together. What's the favorite place? Is it in Houston now?
Oh no. Well, what would be yours? Because
Pittsburgh.
It's close between Pittsburgh and Cleveland, but I think I'm going Cleveland. Cleveland was just the most fun time of my life. Like Cleveland's so much fun.
I mean, you can't be 22 forever, Michelle. You got to grow up at some point. I think Pittsburgh was the perfect.
Both were amazing. I do like the city of Cleveland better than the city of like downtown Cleveland was more fun than downtown Pittsburgh.
Also, like,
are you enjoying Houston at this time?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. It's just
do you think
we live in a suburb, so it's suburban life. We're old now,
That's probably the biggest difference, and that's why I love living in a city, and we wanted to live close to family, so we live in the suburbs now, and I'm gonna always 10 times out of 10 miss living in inner city. I like being able to walk places. Walkability is my favorite thing, but there's nowhere to walk here. You're not walking very far. So I will
say 10 minutes away from us is 20 different awesome restaurants and bars. They're really building up. So it's fine. It's a quick Uber ride over there to have fun.
Do you think you'll be down there for the time being, or is
we bought our house here, so we're stuck here for a while.
Well, make the most of it. I love it.
Yeah.
What's your all-time favorite TV show? I know you mentioned Vanderpump, but what's your favorite TV show all time?
So I'm going back to when I'm a teenager, but it's still my favorite show of all time. One Tree Hill.
No.
Yeah. What do you mean no?
Friends.
Oh yeah, I mean. Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, Friends is a great answer too.
Friends or The Office.
Okay, I changed mine to Friends, but One Tree Hill, my favorite drama.
Okay, so The Office with a shout out to One Tree Hill. That works. That works. Yeah. How about an all-time favorite movie?
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Oh, thank God you said something stupid. Legally Blonde.
We don't watch movies. Again,
we don't watch movies.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like serious. Like I understand like these movies aren't like, well, actually Legally Blonde's a well-made movie. Like the worse it is, I like it better. So you don't like no one has to come and tell me you like bad stuff. Like, yeah, I know. That's the point. I like it.
Again, similar to like the TV show, I want to like shut my brain off.
I want it to be as stupid as possible.
Yeah.
That's good. No, I love that. How about a sports movie? Is there a favorite sports movie for you guys?
So I did say I like it to be as stupid as possible, and this is not that. It's Remember the Titans. Nothing will ever beat that. I mean, that's just the best, one of the best movies ever, and definitely the best sports movie.
Gotta be Rudy.
Rudy. I never even knew you watched Rudy.
I watched it like my grandpa was obsessed with.
Because he's a Notre Dame fan.
He was a huge Notre Dame fan.
Rudy's a great movie. We've never watched that together.
Yeah, he loved Rudy. So like growing up, we're an Irish family, so like he was all into Rudy vibes.
Love it. How about an all-time favorite band, singer, or artist?
Kelly Clarkson.
Nice.
Yeah,
you can say Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
It should be Kelly Clarkson, but
Taylor Swift. If we're not on a bandwagon, the band Mayday Parade.
Mayday Parade would be my favorite like band. Yeah.
Okay. What is the best Taylor Swift album?
Reputation.
Woo!
Oh, interesting. I'd go 1989, but I respect those that say Reputation. That's
I gotta say, like, I just love the attitude of Reputation.
Yeah.
It is too middle, and you know what? Torture Poets Department also same vibes of like F all of you. Like,
yeah.
I love Moody Taylor, and those are like the two moodiest albums I think you're ever going to see out of Taylor Swift. So I like it. I like the expletives. I don't know. Something about it.
What are your top 5 songs? Tortured Poets Department.
On just Tortured Poets?
Just Tortured.
All right,
we can go another hour about the other stuff. Just Tortured.
I got my top 5. So it's Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. Those two are pretty much tied at first. And then Florida, so good. The Alchemy about Travis Kelce, who can't love that. And then Down Bad. Those are my top 5.
I would say the same, except I'll replace Down Bad with Thank You, Amy.
Okay. I see. I like those lists, but I would slide in. I'm gonna get you back. I like that.
Yes,
and then
such a banger.
I think like LOML. Like I think that was masterfully done. That's my opinion. Just the lyrics,
poetry,
and then dropping the name of it at the end. Like you're on the like. That's powerful stuff for me. But we'll get into that another time.
This album got so much hate and like bad press, but I don't think anybody's like looking at the lyrics, reading the lyrics in conjunction with, because it's masterfully written. Masterfully.
I'm with you on that. And you guys did go to the Eras tour. That is right?
Yeah.
You were stuck. Weren't you stuck in a hotel for like 3 days? Or
Dude,
something?
that was insane.
We weren't stuck in the hotel. We couldn't get a hotel room was the issue.
Yeah.
So we were stuck in the hotel lobby getting ready with about 300 different Taylor Swift fans.
Yeah. So
we all had to share one mirror to do our makeup.
They didn't have the whole hotel. They didn't have anybody to clean the rooms from the previous Eras tour.
Like
so
the
night before. And so like we showed up for check-in at 3 p.m. The line was all the way around the building. We waited through the whole line. They were like, yeah, we don't have any hotel rooms. We didn't end up getting a hotel room until like 12:30 at night. Like after the show, everybody just had to like leave their stuff there to go to the concert. Cause like we all got ready in like public conference rooms and we're changing in the hallways. Like it was unhinged. We ended up getting a full refund for that.
Wow.
Giant debacle.
Yeah,
like I actually feel kind of bad for the hotel at this point because they probably lost like $100,000 between the number of people that they probably had to refund. It was a disaster.
Wow.
But
in Seattle, it was great. We just drove down, 35 minutes, first parking spot. It was 75 degrees. It was perfect. So
that sounds beautiful.
I feel for you, but it adds to the storylines in the long run for what you guys experience for sure. So at this stage, what are you most grateful for?
Kate, pretty easily.
Yeah, I think it's
but we have a pretty blessed life right now. We have a beautiful home that we're obsessed with. Kate's obsessed with her grass, like a weird 50-year-old man.
Yeah.
She wants to make the grass great. We have awesome dog. We have 2 dogs, 2 cats. We have great friends, great family, great jobs. A lot to be thankful for right now.
We have everything to be thankful for. But honestly, like, it's just, I can't understate how cool it is to be able to like share this industry with my best friend and my wife. Like, I see, people tweeting all the time, like, oh my God, how am I going to explain to my wife that we have to watch football on Christmas? And like, I'm like, oh, no. Like, we have that experience together.
When we have to miss a game, or like, I don't even know what it'd be like for some family thing. We're like, how do we explain to the other one that we're not going to be able to watch this game together? It's completely opposites. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
It's just so unique.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how about, obviously there's a lot of people that want to kind of follow your path and do what you've done. Like, do you have any advice for people that want to get more involved in the fantasy industry and carve out their own path?
You got to grind and be consistent, right? Consistently put work out there, put thought into what you're saying. Like, you're allowed to say bold takes. You don't have to follow everyone else. That's something I did a lot, but like, I always had a reasoning behind it. I wasn't just throwing stuff out there. I really always truly believed it, but it's because I did so much research on the back end. And not saying I was right about everything. Like, there was many things I was wrong on, but there was a reasoning. I thought they were going to be good or something was going to happen. So it's really just the grind, always out there. Don't be scared to be different. Put that time in, and yeah, all those things.
Yeah, I think the grind is definitely essential, and having that sort of consistency and the willingness to like force yourself. There are going to be days where, even though it's talking about football, it's going to be tiring, and having the wherewithal to like push through that. But I definitely think like authenticity is like the most important thing, being yourself, speaking with your voice. Cause like, there are a bunch of millions of content creators right now. I'm exaggerating, but you could present the same information 20 different ways, but like, if you're presenting it in your authentic voice with your own authentic personality, that gives you a differentiator. So I always try to encourage people to like, have some personality. You don't need to be a robot. Be yourself and be authentic. And that's going to differentiate you in a big way from other people.
For sure. That's absolutely great advice. Great advice. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you want to share before we close things out?
I think we covered it all. We got through a lot in this hour.
We did. Yeah. Can you share with the listeners and viewers where to find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter or X at BallBlastEm, BallBlastEm, and you can find my work at NFL.com.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Kate Magdziuk. It's Magdciuk, and follow my work, PFF, Locked On Dynasty Podcast, all that good stuff, Yahoo. You can't hide from me.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. You are 2 of my absolute favorites. And so it was just so much fun to have you on here. And I cannot wait to see what's next for you in 2024. And I cannot wait to see you guys in Canton, Ohio in August.
Thank you.
A few more months away. Can't wait.
Let's do it.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited Podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.